guys, welcome back to My Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Another fantastic day for an interview. And it is actually a beautiful day because I get to meet again one of my guests who has been with me for better part of 18 months? 18 months ago, I had the honor of interviewing Gloria Masters. And if you guys can't remember, go back and listen to the original interview because we two have been exploring a very dark topic in the most honest way. We were breaking taboos, talking about it and ripping down the curtains from Mr. and Mrs. Right out there with the beautiful gardens and New Zealand being such a beautiful place of honest people who look after each other. Nothing ever goes wrong. Bullshit. We were diving very, very deep in Gloria Masters' life and her previous book in which she described all her horrible life, her horrible youth in a innocent honesty that really made me still shiver now when I think back of some of the paragraphs in there. But Gloria Masters is a power to reckon with. And she is back because she has written another book, Flightpath to Healing. And that is a book that is so much needed out there because it's all quite nice to encourage people. You need to speak out, or not you need to, but you will be, there's hope when you speak out. Yeah, great. And now what? So it's the me too, now what kind of a thing. And what are the steps? What can one do when one was affected? And I'm so pleased that I've got Gloria Masters back with me. Gloria, welcome to the show.
So excited to be here, Stefan.
Right.
And I feel so privileged because what you didn't know back then, my friend, was that you were my very first podcast.
Oh, I had no idea. There you go. Okay, we started with a bang.
We did.
Wow. Oh,
yes.
Gloria.
Yeah.
You are a woman on a mission. You're a woman who is going out there in order to encourage other survivors of childhood sexual abuse to speak out and to encourage them to come out of the shadows, not to necessarily tell their story out in public, but to start healing, to start addressing those things that left an indelible mark on their soul and often enough has caused behaviors that people are not proud of because they're escaping their reality with all kind of behaviors such as drinking alcohol, using drugs, having sexual relationships that are not the healthiest, etc. All those kind of things have flow-on effects, but very few people are actually addressing the core, the root cause for it. And you're a woman who does that.
Yeah.
You have, where is this power coming from? I mean, you impressed me 18 months ago, and I know you've gotten only stronger. How is this journey coming about for you?
Well, it's interesting, and thank you so much. And to the beautiful survivors watching, hello, I've got your back. So look, it's such a delight to be here, and the power comes from within because from a young age, Stefan, I realised there was no one outside of me who would look out for me or protect or care for me. And so, as you know, with my story, it ended up being me having to rely on myself, which is hugely traumatic and impactful. And the memoir On Angel's Wings, as you know, which was why you first interviewed me, told that story. But I'm so excited about this Flightpath to Healing because it's a guide for child sexual abuse survivors, adult survivors of this, and it's a guide. So they can pick up the book at any place and kind of tap into what resonates with them and take it forward. Yeah.
What made you write this book?
Well, it's interesting, you know, two things. One, I've been repeatedly and constantly asked, how did you get through? How come you're so normal? So
I wouldn't go this far. Okay, come on.
Yeah, thanks, Stefan. Only a friend would say that. But yeah, okay, thank you. So so I think it made me realize what I'd done to perhaps face into and then begin to overcome. And then that was the first reason, because I get asked, how on earth did you manage to get through all of that? And then I think the second reason is I just see the impact of this, and you mentioned it in your intro, Stefan, in terms of our, over 90% of our addiction sufferers are or people who have addiction, whether it's sex, drugs, alcohol, food, whatever it happens to be. They can directly link back now to childhood trauma, specifically child sexual abuse. That's one statistic. Another is over 70% of our PTSD sufferers are not Vietnam or war vets, Stefan. They are people like me who have suffered from child sexual abuse. In our prisons, we have most of the population is there because they have suffered from this. And what you see with the fantastic work you're doing is you're dealing with the aftermath of that on your show, because you're showing what the addiction does to a person. I guess I'm a little bit of a step or two pre that in terms of I know why the addiction and the self-abuse occurs. We have such high suicide rates in this country. Don't be surprised to learn that well over 50% of suicides can be directly linked to some form of child sexual abuse. So this is not just, oh my gosh, what a small issue, and please stop talking, Gloria. No one wants to hear about it. I'm never going to stop, Stefan. Why? Because it could be your child or grandchild I save through exposure and through voicing. So this guide is not to pressure anyone into you should speak out. It's actually to gently lead them from where they are to where they wish to be. And, there's up to a million ways we can express and tell our story. And for the survivors watching, one of them could be talking, another could be art, another could be martial arts, another could be deep sea diving. The thing is, we can express in motion. It doesn't have to be verbal, as long as we're releasing it out of our heads. So,
and that is already one example where you're taking action, and with action, you are releasing some of the demons. You're actually releasing some of the pressure, some of the tension that is in you.
Yes.
Because we shouldn't forget that, we must not forget that alcohol or sex or bulimia, all these kind of behaviors that are displayed by some people, they release attention and they release a pressure. And it is the most beautiful thing when that anxiety goes. And it is very understandable, the kind of effect that finally things are better. And you don't think about the consequences of your actions. You only think about the release of pain, the masking, the temporary masking of your pain. And that is where our negative behaviors are so powerful. They make sense in the moment, just in the long run.
100%. And Stefan, the beauty in what you're saying is this. I applaud anyone who has done anything to try and understand or get to grips with this trauma or their childhood trauma. It may not have been child sexual abuse, but the point is, if you've gravitated to some sort of addictive behavior, the reality is you haven't been able to live with what's inside you.
Exactly. And I think that is the beautiful thing about addiction. It can be a marker, and that's how I look at it in my
Yes.
own life.
Yeah.
If I'm suddenly thinking of alcohol, I know exactly that there is something new wrong with me, that I did not pay attention to myself, that my needs were not fulfilled, and that my body jumps back into the old groove of immediate satisfaction, but through a chemical means. And it is beautiful. So maybe we should see addictive behavior and embrace it as a marker that there is work to be done, and as something to maybe encourage people to say, okay, just as much as your heart rate increases when the adrenaline comes and the anxiety comes, so does the addictive behavior increases when trauma needs to be addressed. So maybe we can reframe the way we are thinking about trauma, because we all have it. And that's the weird thing. We all have that trauma. Yet when you are in your own head, you think you're all alone. And that was what struck me so in your book there. For you, it was you, just you. There was no one else there. Is that, I mean, you speak nowadays to so many other survivors. Do they feel the same, that they are the only ones? No one could ever understand how they feel because it can only ever happen to them?
100%, because you've got to realize that this all happened when we were children. So it began in secrecy. Silence was ensured through either threatening the child that, in my case, threatening that my mother or siblings would be killed if I spoke. Or it may be, for some of your beautiful survivors out there, Stefan, they were told, oh, I only do this because I love you. So whatever it is, silence is ensured. But you know what takes the gold? It's the shame. The shame keeps us quiet for the rest of our lives. And I'll share something with you, my friend. It took me till the beginning of this year before I could post on LinkedIn because of the shame.
Interesting.
Well, because people don't want to know. That's the other thing about child sexual abuse survivors and that whole topic. No one wants to talk about this because it's so uncomfortable. But what they don't realize is it gives a free pass to the pedophiles and the abusers to continue. And it means people who are struggling to cope with the impact of this have nowhere to go because it's so shameful. And we've got to change the narrative. And that's why people like me are out there going, child sexual abuse, we need to talk about it. And other people are saying, please shut up and go away.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to.
And I think that is important, especially now. We are in the second year of COVID. We have basically isolated the victims with their abusers.
Yes.
And basically made the situation worse for many, many families where emotional and physical abuse and sexual abuse are daily occurrences.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's so tricky. And we know the abuse statistics have gone up, and we see certainly different or increased patterns of violence, domestic violence, coming through the emergency departments. What can we do about it? I mean, you have written your book. Who is your target audience? For whom have you written this book?
Okay, good. Thank you. Good question. This is for the up to 1 in 3 survivors New Zealand Police report that are impacted. 1 in 3, Stefan, adults in this country, think about that, male and female, have experienced some form of child sexual abuse. Now, I'm going to take a leap here and say this is global because it's huge everywhere, because it's not spoken about or dealt with. So the up to 1 in 3 are survivors like me who may have had years of extreme abuse. It might be someone who's had one experience. It doesn't matter. We're not comparing. It's simply that one experience can be enough to change the trajectory of your whole life. And we need to stand by our survivors. We need to see them. We need to believe them. And, the New Zealand police have thanked me and said, thank you for the work you're doing, because we need people to feel they've got somewhere to go, and voices need to be heard, or even if they can't yet speak, Stefan, it's around having, I do a survivor interview a week on the channel. It's having one person's story might just ignite a recognition in someone listening and give them that little bit of hope, as you said, so they don't feel so alone.
And it's so hard, isn't it? Because we've got Women's Refuge, which is great for women who are the victims. But if indeed women are the perpetrators, women are for reasons whatsoever, are dishing out the violence or are condoning wittingly the sexual abuse by other members of their family, what is there to do for the child?
Well, that's it, and that's where the child gets trapped. But you raised a really good point. Thank you. There's a little myth out there that women don't sexually abuse. Wrong. Women sexually abuse. I speak to many men who have experienced child sexual abuse from their mother, auntie, teacher, whoever it happened to be. And in our culture, and this is true across the world, there's a patriarchal society, Stefan, which means that men are seen as the protectors, the strong ones. Big boys don't cry. You're weak if you let it happen. Good on you, mate. Or you're gay. And so for our beautiful male survivors out there, it's really hard for them to find their voice, because the conditioning in society is, what's wrong with you that you let it happen? But if I showed you the image of the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old boy with the missing teeth, what power did that child have? And I think men and women need to stand alongside each other in this. So we've got men's prisons, we've got Dilworth survivors for your audience globally. It's the biggest private school, which is public school in your countries. In New Zealand, the wealthiest one. They had a pedophile ring of teachers there, and I'm not talking 3, we're talking 12 and more existing teachers on the staff who were pedophiles. Those boys, I believe there's over 130, have now been able to come forward, but they need help. Yeah.
Is the police introducing paths where children can readily get their voices heard? How are schools encouraged to deal with that? And I'm now a bit critical here, especially of the New Zealand system, because certainly my children have in some schools been the victims of bullies, and I was less than impressed with how the bullies were dealt with. So if I extrapolate from that, I mean, hell, if they can't deal with bullying, which is far more common, virtually everywhere, what are they doing about sexual abuse? What is your experience with that when you nowadays talk to people?
Well, I think 2 things, and another good question. 2 things which may surprise you, but I'm quite proud of our police for doing. They have what they call a Keeping Safe program, which they run. This is in New Zealand for the listeners and viewers. They have a Keeping Safe program which goes from the time a child enters school up through, I believe it goes to intermediate, which is our year 12s. And they include in their Keeping Safe program what safe touching is, So there is a module on it, and we get the great, gorgeous young constables, male and female constables.
Right.
They're not wearing their police gear, but they're having conversations and they're playing games around educating. So children are getting that. And then, of course, teachers are then aware of which child may or may not be reacting. But that's part one, which I'm really thrilled we do that here. But part two is this: if I put a child and a parent in front of you and said, tell Stefan what's happening, unfortunately, adults tend to believe adults. Very hard for a child to find the courage to speak. Did that answer your question?
Oh, yes. I mean, I was not aware of this police initiative, Keeping Safe, and that is so beautiful to hear that. I know that. Please, I'm a fan of the New Zealand police. Okay, let's be quite honest here. These people are doing the most amazing job in so many regards. So actually, a big shout out for the boys and girls out there who are trying to keep us safe in a rapidly deteriorating world in certain parts of our country. So thank you to everyone out there. And it is so hard because so many things do go wrong. We have got a rise of gangs, especially South Auckland, but in other parts of the country as well. So resources get drawn towards that. Resources get drawn towards the homeless, which are now clustered into smaller towns like where I live in Rotorua. We have got 9% of the homeless of New Zealand are being put with COVID into our hotels. Well, guess what? The police is busy. So there are resources drawn to that. There are resources drawn here, there, everywhere. Where the hell do they find the resources, the money, the manpower to actually deal with that? And to actually hear such a positive development is a beautiful thing for me. That gives me a little bit of hope there, and it's beautiful to hear. How much is there training for teachers? And how much is there acceptance within the teacher community to actually address this topic?
Look, I'm not 100% sure, Stefan. I tend to, my focus is working alongside the adult survivors of this. I'm not so much in the preventative space, but I believe that teachers, know what to look for, or do look and do try and keep their children and their classes safe. But again, it's almost impossible for a small child or even a teenager to find their voice, because when we think about it, behavior in children reflects what's going on. So as adults, you and I will talk it out. Children will play it out. And so look for the naughtiest child in the class. Conversely, look for the quietest, most insecure child in the class, and there could be some things happening. Children, we don't ask, we notice behavior. That's how they communicate.
Gloria, you've written this book with the view of encouraging survivors to start their healing process. And I think that is such a beautiful thing. And I'm very much, I mean, talking to me, you're preaching to the converted, because it was only after I started addressing my own demons that I allowed myself to heal and allowed myself to become the man that I am today. A man who is a polar opposite, really, in many respects, to the wreck I was in the past, the emotional wreck. Having said that, it all comes with a price. Should really everyone who has suffered as a child, I mean, do you really need to address that? Do you really need to go out there and scratch open those wounds that were so many years ago in many cases?
Look, it's an opinion. You aren't really opening anything because it's all living within you.
Mm.
Your life reflects what you're carrying. Your life shows the world what your struggles are. Your life can only be that which you can face into.
Mm.
And so I believe that what is for you will find you. When your time is right, you will find the courage to journal it out or speak to a trusted friend or share with someone. And the beauty of that, Stefan, is that we then free it from ourselves and we start to hand the shame back, which, as you know, is my podcast channel.
That's it.
We cannot run from that which is seeking us. I spent years, you would have given me the gold medal for distraction techniques or keeping as busy as I can. You ain't got nothing on what I used to be, Stephen.
I understand.
You're a toddler. I was either moving 1,000 miles an hour or I was carked out, almost coma-like because out of exhaustion. I ran as hard and fast from it as I could, partly because, and your survivors will get this, a beautiful survivor community out there will get this. What we are running from, we don't actually know always what it is, but we know it's blimmin' scary. It's frightening and it's coming for us, and I didn't want any part of that. So in answer to your question, I believe we can't be who we're meant to be, and for the beautiful souls that survivors are, we owe it to ourselves to start noticing the shoulder tapping. And if we ignore the shoulder tapping of we might need to face an issue, we then might get a bit of a nudge. And if we ignore the nudge, we might then get a shove. And if we ignore that, and remember, I did all of this, we're then going to get hit over the head with a tsunami coming so fast at you that you are flatlined, and it would take, I'll use an anaesthetist term here, it would take a skilled anaesthetist like Stefan to bring you back. So,
oh dear! But
so
you're so right. You're so right. Absolutely. I mean, Gloria, you nail it there. And sorry, my question was, of course, loaded, and it was, of course, devil's advocate here, because we know that even if you don't admit to yourself that things have been wrong, your body doesn't care, because the issues lie in the tissues. How many people come with somatic problems, the back pain, the headaches, the abdominal pains, etc. Those kind of things where your quality of life goes down the drain.
Yeah.
You are a wreck, a physical wreck. And surprise, surprise, when you start a healing process and when you actually look at the root cause and deal with those things, suddenly your physical body changes. Your physical body heals in a way that you can't imagine. And that is the scary thing. So those people out there who say, nah, that is so long ago. No, I'm strong. Look how strong I am. Yes, I need a cane to walk around because I'm so much pain, but that's just me. You bullshit. Okay. So there is actually so much to be explored, and we deserve a life where we get back in the driver's seat, where we can take action, where we make informed choices, where we live a life where we can live intentionally. And once we come to that point, now that is where magic happens.
Well, and I want to call you up on something, so you're going to love hate me, but that's cool. You mentioned homeless people before, and it's by the grace of God, go you or I. And the reason for that is these are just unresolved either addicts or people who haven't been able to face into their trauma. And I think, just let me finish with this, the question, not just for our beautiful children, but the question for all the adults we see that are struggling is, what's happened to you? What's happened in your life?
I love it when you hold a mirror in front of my face, and you're quite right. You're quite right. It is by the grace of God that I'm sitting here and not lying somewhere under a bridge.
Yep.
Some friends of mine have been in that situation, and with hindsight, there were times in my life where it could have gone in a different way.
Yep.
And I think that is absolutely fine. So thank you very much for pulling my socks up there.
Yeah.
But the when I was making that comment, I made it because it is some of the behaviors that are expressed by such frustrated people and by people with mental health problems, where there's constant call outs, where the police gets called 12 times a day to the same unit in the same hotel with the same domestic issues there. It's those kind of things. I was earlier referring to the drain on police, giving an example how widespread the needs are in the population where police is concerned. That is what I was trying to address. But you're right, to actually ask ourselves why people do express a certain behavior. Why are people in a certain situation? What has led to that? You are quite right. If we were to dig back, then you come to intergenerational trauma. You come to sexual abuse. You come to childhoods that are incredibly painful, frustrating, helpless, hopeless.
But there's no permission, Stefan, and social media really has done us no favors, because everyone wants to post the perfect dinner, the perfect relationship, the perfect experience. And there's less room then for, actually, I'm struggling. I didn't really want to be here for the rest of today.
Yep.
Or I'm not coping. I can't afford to eat properly. Or I'd rather go to bed than turn the heater on because the power bill's too much for me. So it doesn't allow people to be real and vulnerable. And what we know about that is, we talked earlier about shame taking the gold. Shame goes hand in hand with vulnerability. And that's why I'm so honoured to share my story, because I'm happy to be vulnerable, because what I notice is people then come forward with their stuff and they feel accepted as opposed to they're going to be judged. So I think there's so much room for these fabulous people out there to be heard and feel supported, because the shame never belonged to us. And so this guide really, it's just a humble offering. I don't profess to be anything professional or expert at anything. All I'm doing is simply sharing from one survivor to another what worked for me through my recovery and what steps I took. And
show us the book. Let's have a little sneak preview.
Okay.
If you must.
If I may. So
Flight
can you
Path
see
to
it there?
Healing. It's beautiful.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah.
Can I show you one of my mantras in here?
Yes, please.
Now, these mantras, they're at the end of each section, and they are designed to embed the exercises I give you on that specific topic.
Yeah.
But also the bonuses, you then have the ability to remove the mantra from the book and put it on your fridge or bedside table.
It's beautiful.
Isn't that gorge? Can you read that, or is that upside down writing?
It is hard to read for me, but through the screen here. You read it to us.
Okay. I choose how to move. I feel connected to my body. My body loves movement.
Beautiful.
And that's my chapter on. One moment, caller. That's my chapter on physical hobbies, because we all need hobbies and we all need to move. And so the reader can, if they like that, they can perforate. It's perforated. take it out, put it somewhere where you see it, and that mantra belongs to you.com. So very excited. And the Flightpath theme goes right through it, Stefan. So it's the Flightpath to healing is it's not incidental. We're on a path where let's move it. So we start with the boarding pass, which all survivors have, because this is our life. So we don't need to be given one. We have a boarding pass, and then we move through. Then we move to the next part, which is our, our travel itinerary. So what we choose from some of the sections in the book. And anyway, I won't give it all away, but it's quite lovely. And my hope is that our survivors even get one thing from it. And
I think the important thing to realize here for your book is that it was written by someone who has been in the darkness, who has actually taken those steps and has experienced the power or sometimes the failure or the challenges that came along with each step.
Yes.
Because there's nothing that you do that doesn't come with a price. Yes. Often enough, the price is immediate pain, because shame and guilt are coming up and say, "You're kidding me! You're speaking up! How dare you? You don't deserve that. Look at you!" And you just get all these negative voices. But the moment you speak out, you actually do it. You say that magic word, "I was abused," or however you phrase it. That is as if someone breaks the shackles off your foot. And it's just the most amazing thing. The first time I said, "Hi, I'm Stefan, I'm an alcoholic," I don't think I remember much of the next hour, because it was so overwhelming for me that I finally admitted that I was not right, that I was powerless over then my addiction. And it was the start to a healing journey that I could have never fathomed. Yet it was the first time spelling it out and jumping over my shame and guilt and pushing that aside. And that was the most beautiful thing. And that's, I guess, where you're saying it doesn't matter how you come to that point of realization. It could be journaling, because now suddenly your fingers have put down in words. It's in front of you. You can't scribble it out. Well, you can try, but it has happened. You've written it. It came out.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's so powerful. So however, get goosebumps. Sorry. However you achieve that first step, it's the most magical and powerful step. It's scary. Yes, we know that. We have done it, and it was the biggest step ever. But
so it is, and you're so right. And I think two things are true of this. So just to give your audience hope here, two things are true. It's never linear, and it's hard. It's hard work. But can I say, having gone through 30 years of healing, I've never been happier. I'm more a child now than I ever was, because I don't believe I had a childhood. So I'm more the kid now than I wasn't allowed to be. And life's great. And I think, at the end of it, you will never regret looking in that mirror and welcoming who you are.
Or finding out who you are. Maybe initially there's nothing looking back at you.
No,
and maybe there is.
That's right.
And that is okay. That is okay. It might be an empty slate, an empty canvas. And that's beautiful. You can now choose the colors. You can choose the direction of your paint stroke. You are painting this new picture. Brilliant. Or there might be a picture there, and you might actually say, now that I look at this picture is not really right, isn't it?
No.
Because this was the picture laid down by children's eyes and core beliefs that were laid down when you were bloody 5 and 6 years old. And maybe, just maybe, what you remember there and the way you then looked at yourself down the line, it's not really right. It's actually the core beliefs that they certainly don't necessarily serve you anymore. They probably never did properly serve you. And they were, from the word go, they were wrong, and they were lies that somehow your brain laid down, isn't it?
Yeah, but we accept how we were conditioned.
True.
And so self-talk can come from a parent, but it can also come from how we see ourselves. And, you know, I think one of the things that happens for survivors, which may surprise you, it's hard for us to look in the mirror with love. It's hard to see ourselves as being of any value or worth anything. And so you'll find a lot of men in our prisons, it's impossible for them, because as children, when the abuse was occurring, we didn't have the luxury of hating the abuser, because we needed them to either feed us, look after us, or keep us safe. And when you're a child, you were either the abuser was either well known to you or given the power over you by someone who was well known to you. So either way, it was very hard for you to feel good about who you were when that happened.
Yeah.
Because instinctively, Stefan, children know what's right and what's wrong, and it never felt right. But because we could never speak of it, the only option to us was to turn ourselves bad, which is a defense mechanism, and make ourselves wrong. And so for us to look in the mirror and feel love and compassion is pretty difficult. Yeah.
And I think what you have described fits pretty much into every life, regardless of bad childhoods or abuse. I think I'm yet to find a person who truly is kind to themselves. Most people I know wouldn't talk to their worst enemy the way they talk to themselves. And this is many of my friends. And often enough, there are days when I still do the same. Nowadays, I catch myself and think, no, stop that bullshit. Stop talking to yourself like that. I talk to myself, to the bad myself, a bit like a parent, and trying to argue, no, actually, come on. He's not that bad. Yes, he is. No, he isn't.
So there's a few of you in there, Stefan.
Oh, hell yes. And that's us. That is us, guys. And we have got these voices, but we also have got the privilege of choice. You have got the privilege to choose every moment if you want to listen to these voices, or if you will start questioning them. If you want to actually maybe take steps that allow you to become more zen. Zen is maybe a shit word. More closer to your truer self. Calm, not too happy, not too sad, just right. And when you actually do things, for example, you talked about a movement, things like the yoga, or maybe just a good workout, and then afterwards enjoy standing under the shower. There's this calmness that comes over you, the satisfaction, that little smile that creeps on your face because you have just done something for yourself. Now that's a beautiful thing that you've just done. You made the choice to do something, you followed through, you succeeded in actually doing whatever it was. And it's beautiful. You took action there.
Absolutely.
And then we go back to your thing, the flight path. Well, a flight is all about taking action.
Yes.
About, first of all, choosing where do you want to go, and then going down this route. And it's actually very, very fitting, the picture that you have chosen, because if we look at an aeroplane flying from here, New Zealand, to LA, 99% of the time, it will be off course. It will be just as constantly. Our path is never straight.
No,
now, a good pilot or a good autopilot will minimize that. But sometimes it goes, little detours. And that's my life, okay? A lot of beautiful detours there.
Yeah, but the beauty of you, Stefan, is that you are always other focused, and that's such a gift. It's such a service, and I thank you on behalf of people that you have really helped with this.
Yeah.
So just wanted to talk about thoughts, seeing as you raised it. Over 96% of our thoughts are either repetitive or unhelpful. Drink that in.
That's a hell of a lot of wasted thoughts.
And guess what we do with them? We give them all our attention, we believe every single one, and we let it control who we are. So the challenge is, because we have over 65,000 thoughts a day, the challenge becomes not focusing on every thought, because you'll go completely crazy, but just even 3 times a day, just checking in with yourself. What's my thinking? If you don't know what you're thinking is, a simple acid test is, how am I feeling? Because if you're not feeling great, your thoughts have been crap. So just a little thought there, guys. Over 96% of our thoughts are either unhelpful or repetitive. Houston, we have a problem.
But we also have a choice to actually accept that.
We have a choice, but we just need strategy on how we manage this, because it's all very well me throwing those stats at you, and I think that's what I'm proud of in the book. It's very practical steps to take so that it's not just, hey, this is the fact. People then think, yeah, that all sounds good, but what do I do now?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Where can people get your book?
So gloriamasters.com, and it will be released on Amazon by the 21st.
21st of August?
Yes.
Perfect. On a few sleeps, guys, then...
Yeah, but it's on gloriamasters.com for those who are on this side of the world. And it's on all versions, Stefan. So it's audio book, it's Kindle, ebook, paperback, hardback. So it's all versions.
So, guys, if you can't make up your mind, or if you want to buy some spares just to give away, hey, here you go.
People like listening, because they can go for their walk, or they can sort out the car, or they can clean their house, or do whatever. So they quite like listening.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Oh, Gloria, thank you so much for being a guest on my show again. Thank you for your ongoing endeavor to make this world a better place. And she is a very multi-talented woman, because she has, not only is she an author, an accomplished author now, she is... Well, actually, stick with the author. I might as well show a bit our new project, which is the book Depression Lied to Me. And we are bringing 16 wonderful female storytellers together who all describe their story with depression. And Gloria, you're one of them. So in due course, we're going to do a shorter interview to highlight your journey with the depression and being an author there. So that's fantastic. And you already said that you have got a podcast out there where you focus on childhood sexual abuse and of adult survivors, and where you bring on guests and explore that. So that is out there. What is the name of your show? Say it again.
Handing the Shame Back.
Indeed. And that's high time that we do that.
And
but guys, indeed. And if that is all a bit too complicated for you guys, don't you worry. Look down there into the description of the YouTube show and of the podcast, because all the links to her projects and to her podcast, to her books are down there. Guys, go out there. You can make this world a better place. And this is done by taking action. And you've already started, because you've listened to that interview. You have listened to Gloria, and you showed an interest, and you have educated yourself. You have done an amazing thing. I want to congratulate you, because we are so bad in congratulating ourselves on the little wins that we do constantly. We take them for granted, but our failures, we focus on them. No. You just have a win to celebrate, because you've learned so much. The 96% of shitty thoughts. Now that really gives me something to think. I think a lot.
Stop thinking.
Stop thinking. That's right. I get headaches when you do that.
Can I just say one thing as we finish, please? To the beautiful child sexual abuse survivors out there, I see you. I stand beside you and I believe you.
Beautiful.
I'll say that.
Gloria, I send you a huge hug. And also to all of you out there who have listened, I'm proud of you guys. This is your journey and you're making a change already by listening. And that's just, come on, you can do it. However dark at the moment your situation is, there is hope and there's help out there. So look after yourself, live with passion, and just hang in there. It will get better. Look after yourself. Bye.